Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 4 premiere of Harley Quinn. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I was so curious how they were going to handle the whole situation with Harley working with the Bat family and stuff like that. And I guess it never really clicked, because I guess in my head, I didn't realize that post the season 3 finale, that Ivy still kept her position as the head of the Legion of Doom. I didn't quite get that. I can't remember, did that happen post her plans falling apart? That happened post her plans falling apart, didn't it? I think it did. I don't remember now. It's been a little while. But I think going into the season, I knew about, Harley being the hero thing, because that's not something that was really touched on in the Valentine's Day episode. I don't think Ivy with the Legion of Doom either, but either way, so to kind of pick up with that, to kind of figure out, okay, so what does this mean for their relationship? And they're making it work. I mean, to be fair, they wouldn't be the first hero and villains in this universe, the DC universe, to kind of get together. I mean, obviously a prime Gotham example would be but I mean, I was about to say Catwoman, but that's a gray area sometimes, because sometimes she's a villain, sometimes she anti-heroes it up, so that's kind of a gray area, but still. But let's kind of split it up. And first and foremost, let's start off with Harley's side of things. Basically, it's not a well-suited match 100%, because Harley's ready, hey, let's go to it. Let's do this thing. Let's do our superhero thing. But it's right, she kind of has to wait. Everyone else is, they're used to the rigmarole of how the whole superhero thing works. Obviously, it's still a fresh thing for Harley. Yeah, she's done her hero thing, but she's never done it in a more official capacity. It's her first official day working with the Bat family, which I love that the Bat family had to put out a video, and it's Batman being yeah, I'm gonna have to step away from some super important, cool athletic stuff or whatever. But he's don't worry, the Bat fam's got you, fam. I was shut up. And I love that Bruce disappears and it's just an American flag while Batgirl, Robin, and Nightwing are there. It's also interesting to know that in this continuity there is a Jason Todd has already happened, and he has already become Red Hood, because apparently he's in Harley's phone for whatever reason. Because she tried to call, who was it she tried to call at one point in the episode? She tried to call Scarecrow. She's all right, he's dead, and deleted it. I forgot who she was trying to call somebody. She ended up calling King Sharp. I can't remember who the person was that she tried to call. Oh, she tried to call the Riddler. And I love that his voicemail message is you having to solve a riddle. It's Jesus, dude, take a damn break from it. But either way, like I said, Harley wants to kind of jump right into it, but their whole thing is right, we just got to stay athletic and do a whole bunch of paperwork. Damian being the weird kid, oh, I want to see a dead body. Oh, I never get to see the dead bodies, because he had to go visit his dad, which I love that whole subplot. I think we're going to get more and more of that. Apparently Bruce has a butler who handles a lot of stuff for him while he's in prison, even Wayne Enterprise stuff, which you could tell Alfred is not a fan of by far. So I think that's going to be an interesting subplot. And I could also see that plot developing where a lot of those moves are being made behind Bruce's back, that he's not in as control as it's being led on, that in actuality this person, I think it was his name, Alvin or whatever, it's it's something with an A, that this other butler's kind of manipulating the situation. So that might be part of this Wayne Enterprise stuff that's happening in the background. It might become a storyline that kind of moves to the forefront, but first episode alone feels they're setting up the breadcrumbs for that, laying down the breadcrumbs for that storyline. So, but I like seeing Alfred being jealous. I mean, to be fair, Bruce isn't, at least in most continuities, I know I'm not the comic person. Because I know Alfred has died in the comics. So I don't know if Bruce has ever replaced him. And I'm sure Lucius is probably filled in that void to something, not to the extent, but kind of, because Lucius and Alfred are kind of in that same ballpark. Obviously, Lucius handles more the tech side of things, but I'm sure he's probably filled that Alfred void sometimes in the comics or something. But I wonder, has there ever been anyone that has replaced Alfred when he has died in the comics? It's happened before. I don't know if it happens a lot or just here and there throughout certain continuities, but so because it's always just been Bruce and Alfred, so. But all of a sudden, there's these serial murders that are happening. Well, people are like basically having like like one victim had like her arm, like her hand sliced off, and it's like, okay, so how are we going to solve this and try and track down the killer? I thought it was going to be more of an issue because you could tell like Barbara wasn't vibing with the way like Harley wanted to approach things of like, you know, because it's like, oh, there was like apparently there was another victim at, what was it, a hard Wayne's gonna fall ice cream pop-up, which is so weird and morbid, but it's like, right, you get that movie came out, probably got a lot of prestige, so you got to milk that merchandising wise and stuff like that, and just kind of built out that brand even more. But I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of messed up considering like what that story's about, and then now there's like an ice cream pop-up experience that you have to go to or something like that, which feels so weird. But I love Harley's way to try and get information was to try and like play like sexy role play with Ivy, and Ivy was kind of getting into it, but like, oh, you're actually interrogating me to get information. It's like, no, I can't turn on the bad guys. You know, I'm a villain. I gotta roll deep and I can't turn on anybody. And so her and Harley are gonna have to set up boundaries and stuff like that. And I love the whole like, oh, why don't you treat me like you're the big time boss and I'm one of your like sexual like God, what was the word she used? She was like, I'm one of your sexual underlings or whatever, like, feed my fragile male ego or something like that. It is cute and nice that they are still going strong. I'm sure it's gonna, I mean, because their relationship was bumpy last season, so it's not like it was all kosher. Like, it had its ups and falls, but they're working on it, and it's like, this is going to present a new challenge this season, and we'll see if it makes their relationship bumpy this season or not, or whether like everything's going to be very copacetic or not. We'll see. I doubt it's Harley and being chaotic person that she is, but she's kind of toned down the chaos when it comes to a relationship. Like, her and her and Ivy have worked out a lot of stuff like post last season and Valentine's special. So I still could see Harley doing the wrong thing, but trying to do it for the right reasons, trying to be a good girlfriend. So I could see that being a thing. So, well, we'll see whether things gotta work out in that front. But like I said, continuing on the Harley front, they end up one of the victims had her clavicle removed, which at that moment Harley was like, I just ran into Professor Pig, and he was referencing this particular person's like clavicle, because it's like, right, these are people who like live stream and stuff, and Harley remembered like, oh, this clavicle, and she's like, oh my god, that's what Professor Pig was going on and on about. He's basically hunting down celebrities, which is so interesting. Like, I think it's so interesting that Professor Pig has popped up more and more in recent years. Because I know he was a recurring character in Gotham. He was in one episode of Batwoman. I want to say it's the most recent thing I've seen him in. I don't know. I'm sure he's popped up in the games, and I'm sure he performed like something like the Ark. But I love how they drew him out was using Nightwing's butt, because apparently he's like number 2 on the list because of those cheeks. And I love during the live stream, you could see some people asking questions. One person was like, oh, are you still dating Starfire? Another person was like, oh god, I don't remember what it was now. It was someone that was kind of named, like, I think it was Bane Boy or something like that. Had asked if he had a boyfriend, and someone else had, was a Gotham gal has said, oh, he seems smart, which I was like, I know what kind of comment that's kind of like a reference to, of like, oh, here's someone doing something sexy, and you're like, yeah, they seem smart, like you're trying to focus on. I thought that was just kind of like, it's just like a little subtle joke I thought was kind of nice. But yeah, they caught Professor Pig and ended up saving Nightwing, and Harley proceeded to bash his. It's always my pop cultural reference of going full Negan and bashed his head in. And the others are like, oh my god, did you kill him? Which for Damien, it's like, cool. Finally got to see a dead body, and it was brutal as hell, blood splattered everywhere. Because I love Professor Pig's like, oh, what do you think you're going to... And then she proceeded to bash his head in. Like, it's like, well, she's going to have to cool it on the murder. But I think it's so interesting because I was like, well, you do know she did the exact same thing to the Mad Hatter last season, which is actually sad because it's like, oh man, like some of these villains that are just dropping dead in his universe. I mean, obviously Mad Hatter died in the one episode he was in. So did Professor Pig. Obviously Penguin had popped up here and there, but he was immediately murdered in season 2. They keep some villains around, and they're not afraid to wipe out villains in this universe. I don't know if they're doing that just because it's just for the sake of like. I don't know if that's almost supposed to be like this, like homage to like superhero movies, because that was like a criticism about superhero movies. How like, I mean, you always kill the villain. Where it's like, yeah, they kill some pretty big villains. I mean, I don't know if he'd be like him and Mad Hatter would be big. I mean, I think Penguin's could be considered a pretty big Batman villain, and it's like, yeah, he's dead in his continuity. Scarecrow as well, you know, so I don't know, just thought that was interesting. Like I said, I'm curious, I'm sure the Bat family is going to have to probably talk to Harley about that. It's like, yeah, we need you to kind of calm down on the murder. That's kind of not our cup of tea. But at the end of the day, she was able to save Nightwing's sweet, sweet cheeks. So, you know, there's that benefit, I guess. And kind of flipping to the other side of things, we catch up with Ivy, who has to deal with like, yo, it's her first day at the job, and she's talking to Lex about how she wants to run things, and basically she wants to do evil in a more environment-friendly way of like, right, we're going to stop a lot of environmental damage, but we're also going to keep the brutality of like, oh yeah, this oil, she plans on dumping it from these oil execs and people. It's like, yeah, we're going to take that oil, stop it from being spilled in the ocean, but we're going to then like dump it down the throats of all these people. So we get the environmental conscious element of it, but also the brutal villainy of it. So it's like, yeah, I think that's an interesting element to it. And obviously Ivy has to deal with people not liking her in her position, because I love the moment she comes in, they're like, oh, it was like it was specifically Gorilla Grodd that was like, oh, I hope the new CEO is chill. I hope he thinks I'm chill. I've never known this dude, but his name is I think it's Snowflame based on the end credits. He's the one constantly doing the cocaine. He's like, I would rip up this folder if it wasn't just the perfect surface to do drugs off of. But he was like, oh yeah, I want to hear the footsteps of the CEO. And it's like, yeah, I'm the CEO. I'm the new leader. And I love that line of, oh my God, someone was like, oh, she must have slept with Lex. And it's someone line in the background, I hope she gets pregnant. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know. Well, now in retrospect, I'm like, I think I know what it means. It's supposed to be, I hope you get pregnant so you end up having to leave work for maternity reasons and a man can step in or something like that. I think that's what that was going for. Man, the misogyny is powerful, even to the point that my favorite line, because you're like, oh yeah. Sad thing is people think and believe that of, oh my God, Lex caved into the woke mob and hired a skirt. I love that line, because the sad thing is, it's like, yeah, people say and think that exact situation. So I thought that was interesting. And I love Ivy being who she is. It's so interesting how she is kind of a people pleaser. So for her approach to handle things is she tries to like conform to what people want. She tries to be a cool person, you know? She always says, oh, I try, you know, kind of like her and Harley kind of have that a little bit where it's like, oh, I try to conform to what people want me to be. Oh, I try to be the cool girlfriend. Oh, I'm trying to be the cool boss that everyone likes, because no one's listening to her. Man Bat, Snow Flame, Metallo, Gorilla Grodd are like the biggest ones, but like we saw some other villains in the background like Sinestro, Reverse Flash. I think Captain Cold was there, just to kind of name a few, but there was a few kind of giving her a lot of guff. She needed stuff for her operation for taking down like the oil people, but the villains messing with her ended up stealing all the supplies she needed. Then she tried to play it cool. She tried to give everyone exactly what they wanted, and it kind of blew up in her face, because one of the things was Bane wanted explosives, and she gave them to him, and he took all those explosives and blew up an oil rig, causing even more environmental damage. Then there was Snow Flame using the women's bathroom. Apparently they've taken like the executive bathroom, women's bathroom, and using it to be the place that they take a shit. Nora walks in, which I'm like, also like, because she isn't going full, like she was very just in her own space last season, where I was like, oh, I guess her wild streak is kind of, I guess like she's kind of past her wild phase or whatever, because now she's like there at the Legion of Doom. I'm like, did you go full? I mean, I guess you are tangentially, you were connected to a villain, so I guess that was the thought process there, where it's like, oh, like, you're not even really like a villain, but I mean, maybe she is. Maybe she's carrying over Victor's work. I highly doubt it. I think she's just probably like, they're hanging out. Who knows? But she's the one that kind of inspired Ivy. Like, no, don't conform to what people want. Who cares? Let people think and say what they want. You be you, because at the end of the day, you're Poison Ivy. You're going to run this thing. And I also got Nora as an assistant out of it. It's like, and her only reason for doing it is because if she didn't, Ivy was going to like put a lock on that bathroom. So only like, because it's meant to only be for like executive women. And it's like if you don't like take the job, I'm going to put a lock on it. It's like, fine, I'll take the job. So she kind of put everyone in their place. Metello tried to be like, oh no, like I'm out of power. Zeep, zap. She's like, nope. Tosses him around. Bashed up Gorilla Grodd. Put everyone in their places. Like, yo, you're going to fall in line. So I thought that was pretty dope. So it didn't just work out for Harley, kind of fitting in with the Bat fam, solving her first case. Ivy's got the Legion of Doom in lock. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what that looks like, under her her leadership. And obviously she has Bane cleaning up the oil. It's like, yeah. And I love that when he walks in, he's like, oh, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, you're going to clean that up, because everyone else is kind of giving a look. Like Solomon Grundy's like, yo, you picked the wrong time to walk in, bro. So that was kind of neat. We do catch up a little bit with the rest of the team. Like we get like Clayface has like, there was an ad for Clayface where it's I don't know if it's supposed to be one of those kind of almost like masterclass things or not. I mean, obviously, because I mean, I don't know, because at the end of last season, he never got any of the recognition for Hard Wayne's fall. Like, he never got any recognition for that. That was all Billy Bob Thornton. So I don't know. I guess he's just trying to make things work. I mean, because Harley did talk to King Shark, which him and his wife are having a whole bunch of kids. But it's like, yeah, he's keeping his distance from Harley, because it's like, right, you are a hero now, so I want to keep my villainy, like, credibility and stuff. Which is kind of sad, because that means, like, the team is going to be like, I mean, the team was pretty heavily splintered last season as well. They weren't together a lot last season. Now they aren't going to be together a lot either, especially with Harley being a hero. I mean, her and Ivy, obviously, but I'm sure this is going to be like a heavily, I mean, already kind of was to begin with, but you'll probably pop in with some of the other characters like a Clayface and a King Shark, but it's mainly going to be Harley and Ivy. And, their division of like, oh, the hero versus villain thing. And like I said, I'm sure that's going to come into a clash at some point in time. It's only the first episode, but I obviously they touched on like, well, when Ivy gave her recap of what's happened, like, we know about Joker being mayor and stuff like that. And considering where the police department was, specifically how Gordon lost his job. I think that's the last time we saw Gordon last season, was when Joker fired him. I think that was the last time we saw him. So I'm curious, is he going to be in this season and all, and in what capacity? I mean, who was his replacement and stuff like that? Well, wasn't Joker planning on defunding the police and stuff like that? I think he didn't he? I don't remember. I thought that's what he was going to do. I think that's why he fired Gordon, because he was planning on doing that, or that. We'll see. We'll catch up. There's still 2 more episodes out. Oh yeah, one last thing I want to add. I completely forgot to talk about this. It just clicked in my head, like the mysterious woman at the end who picks up the phone, like, oh yeah, the trigger's been pulled or whatever. I'm like, it's got to be Talia, right? I'd assume so. I mean, Damien's here, so I mean, Damien's been around for a while, but we haven't really touched on the, like, Al Ghul side of things, like, Ra's or, like, Talia, but you'd assume maybe that'd be her. Maybe it's not, but she's the first person that immediately came to my mind, because the character has a little bit of an accent, so I just assumed, but I mean, I don't know. I figure that that'd be an interesting place to go, especially with Damien now. I mean, especially with kind of, like, things kind of being in turmoil the way they are, like, oh yeah, the, villain side of things are kind of more in line with the hero side of things. have kind of faltered, more so on like the Wayne Enterprise side of it. Like that might actually tie in, like I was bringing up earlier, the whole storyline of, oh, maybe things like maybe Bruce isn't really running things the way that Butler in prison tried to make it seem like he was. So I don't know. Like I said, Talia is my first guess, but that might not be the case at all. We'll see. I'm curious to see where they end up taking us going forward with all of this. But so glad to have Harley Quinn back, and obviously so soon too. Obviously, the pandemic like really affected season 3. That's why it took very, very long to get that done, I'm sure. But I'm excited to see where this season ends up taking us. I have no idea what to fully expect. I avoided the trailer, so I have no idea what to even fully, even a monochrome of an idea of where this season's potentially going to go. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.